What did you think of the new D&D movie? Did you see that one?
I absolutely loved it. There were things that happened in that movie. It's like I have been in pretty much exactly that situation, and it kind of unfolded exactly that same way too. Every time someone used a spell, in my head, I didn't want to say it out loud because I didn't want to annoy people. In my head, I was like, oh, that's this spell, that's that spell.
Yeah, I loved how relatable it was to like people who are really, into the game, but then for people who are casual or like not really familiar with it at all, it was still a very entertaining movie. I really loved, there were so many instances where you could tell like someone got a great role and then another character got a terrible role.
Oh yeah, I really liked it, and I hope there are going to be sequels because it kind of felt at the end like it's set up for there to be a sequel.
Yeah, I want to see more of this campaign.
Yes, me too.
Do you do a lot of work in sort of the disability advocacy space?
A lot of the stuff that I write about, it's about like disability representation in media, both fiction and nonfiction settings. Like I talk a lot about disability rep as it pertains to like journalism and certain articles in the media that I find like, okay, we should stop doing those.
Yeah, it's important that we kind of call that out. It takes people kind of speaking out against it for there to be maybe not quick change, but at least a mindset shift when people are consuming media that's, not very disability conscious or very respectful. What do you think needs to happen in terms of representation of disability?
Just treat us like regular people. Like write stories about us that, the same way you would write about people who are not disabled. Like, let us be the badass action hero. Let us have the romances. Let us have stories that don't turn us into, like, our whole entire personality is our disability.
In, like, the film world and in the healthcare world even, I think that's a big issue with the way healthcare providers are trained and taught about disabilities. It's very pathologizing and, all focused on like the injury and the disease and the impairment. There's some progress being made. The disability advocacy movement continues to grow. As crappy as the pandemic was, that was a big turning point for me when I started, going on the internet. Like we couldn't leave our homes, we couldn't interact with people in person. So communicating more with people on the internet, that really showed me so much about accessibility and sort of like access needs. That was just a whole new world for me. Are there any parts of your story and your lived experience with disability that you feel comfortable sharing?
Well, I have spina bifida, so it's a neurological defect where when a baby is in the womb, the spine does not form fully. Even kind of to this day, most of the people that I have met who also have various forms of spina bifida have mostly been online. I've only met like in person, like one or two other people. So it was kind of funny. I kind of grew up like not really knowing a whole lot about my own disability. I had to like actually go on research. Okay, what's this? And now I've kind of started every month for October, which is Spina Bifida Awareness Month. I kind of do like a little thing on Tumblr, but I'm also on TikTok. I might start doing it there too, of little like facts about Spina Bifida itself, about how it pertains to me.
That's really cool. Spreading awareness and like having to educate yourself because there was sort of a lack of community, a lack of knowledge around you. That's important work.
Not a whole lot of people know what spina bifida is unless they have someone in their family who has it. I was kind of surprised when we first moved to Oregon. I was filling out the paperwork for my new dentist and I saw that spina bifida was actually one of the conditions listed on the paperwork, and I was like, I am 30 years old. I have literally never seen on any kind of medical paperwork of any kind a reference to spina bifida, so that's kind of awesome.
It was like you felt seen by your dentist.
Yeah, I felt seen for like one of the very few times in my life. When you're a kid with spina bifida, there are, every children's hospital has the spina bifida clinic that you go to every year. You see your neurosurgeon, your orthopedic surgeon, your neurologist. All of these doctors are set up all one-stop shop. As soon as you age out the children's hospital, you're on your own.
Yeah.
There's only a handful of adult-oriented spina bifida clinics in the entire country. which I've always been very frustrated by that, because it's not like as soon as you turn 21, that stuff goes away.
Right. And I believe next to cerebral palsy, spina bifida is the second most common physical congenital disability.
So yeah, it's one of the more common, especially the form that I have of it, which is the myelomeningocele form. That's the most common form of it. There's still so little that's really known. Oh, we think it's this, we think it's that, we think it's a combination of all this stuff, but kind of there hasn't really been a whole lot of research into, okay, what is the for sure cause of this? But there's a million, how do we, cure it? It's like, y'all are focusing on the wrong thing.
Right. It's like, why don't we start on helping people manage this and live with it?
Yeah.
That would be helpful. Do you have any advice for people who are kind of newer to these concepts and like newer to disability advocacy?
For people who are in construction, hire someone who is actually, disabled, to make sure that your building is disability friendly. When I was in college, we had a new student center built, and the head of the construction crew actually kind of flagged me down and said, hey, before we officially open this place, do you want to take a tour of the building, make sure it's up to par?
Oh, I love that.
Which was so cool. I got to tour the entire building. I got to check out the elevator, check out all the bathrooms, check out kind of everywhere, make sure that the door frames were wide enough everywhere. And yeah, it was a perfect building, honestly. Like, yes, this totally works for people of kind of all different mobility levels. And it was so cool being asked to be included about that. Like, that should be the standard.
What about in terms of advice for like healthcare providers? I'm in academic medicine, so I'm teaching medical students, I'm teaching residents who are training to be doctors. Do you have any advice for people who are training to be in healthcare?
Probably the biggest one that I have is treat your disabled patients like you would treat your non-disabled patients. Like, don't be condescending, don't infantilize them, because that is something that I have dealt with before, is doctors being very condescending, treating me like I'm 2 years old. I'm almost 37.
Yeah, and it sounds like such a simple piece of advice, but I don't think people can hear it enough times, really. Yeah, when I give talks about ableism and disability conscious healthcare to trainees and colleagues, there's a term called diagnostic overshadowing, which is where someone with a apparent disability presents with like new or worsening symptoms. A provider could easily just lump those symptoms into the existing condition and neglect to get like, new diagnostics or really investigate a potentially, new acute issue. It's not just about sort of treating people like humans. It's like you need to provide a standard of care so that, people can live well and stay healthy. I mean, what else is healthcare for?
That's actually another kind of piece of advice that I would throw in is understand that your patients who have, these lived-in experiences, understand that they know more from having these experiences than you will know from just reading about it in a book. And if they say, hey, something feels off, something is very most likely off. There's a reason why spina bifida is called a snowflake disease. No two patients have the exact same experience, so you cannot rely just on, hey, this is what the textbook says.
Oh, that's great advice. That is great advice. Are there any other things you wanted to share just in general about like your experience with gaming or accessibility?
So yeah, my advice to not even just new players who have disabilities, but any new player in general, if you have an idea, ask your DM, and the worst they can do is say no, but who knows, you could end up something with even cooler than what you originally thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the spirit of the game. That's the whole purpose, is to provide this basis where you can imagine anything in this fantasy world and make it,
absolutely.
Make it your own. That's awesome. I feel like I grilled you a little bit, so thank you so much for offering your insights and your advice and sharing some of your story.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me. I would absolutely love to talk to you again if you ever feel so inclined.
I would love that. I mean, I do TV and movie breakdowns too, you know, usually representations of disability, but like I also really love the D&D movie. So, you know, maybe we could like break that down or something.
Oh, yeah, totally. I would absolutely love that.
Where can people find you on social media?
I am on TikTok and Tumblr and Twitter until Twitter explodes at Hobbit on Wheels. You can see me occasionally on the Dice Not Included channel, usually playing stuff like Phasmophobia, Power Wash Simulator, pretty much any kind of multiplayer games that I can play with my group there. That's usually where you'll find me. Or if you want to read some of the stuff that I've written, I write a lot of blogs about like disability in media. I do a lot of book reviews, movie reviews, musical reviews. You can find that at Professionally Unprofessional on Tumblr.
Fantastic. I'm going to link those in the description. If you want to hear more conversations like this, hit that like button and subscribe to Disability Clinic for more accessible and entertaining education. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and learning. See you next time.
Bye. Bye.